Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Office of Indian Education's 50th anniversary celebration. Thank you for joining us from all over the U.S. this morning. I know for some of you it is quite early, so we appreciate you getting up and joining us in this day of celebration and reflection. We're going to kick off today with an opening session on a celebration and call to action. Leading us today are Julian Guerrero Jr., the Director of the Office of Indian Education, Dr. Donna Sabas-Burns, the Discretionary Group Leader for the Office of Indian Education, and Dr. Crystal Moore, the Formula Group Leader for the Office of Indian Education. We also have a number of special guests who will be joining us throughout the day. This morning, we're joined by Ruth Ryder, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, by Amy Lloyd, the Assistant Secretary of the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education, and by Holly Mackey, the Executive Director of the White House Initiative on American Indian and Alaska Native Education. As we get started this morning, we'd love to know where you are tuning in from today. I'm going to share here on the screen a little map, and I will pop over in the chat a link where you can share with us where you're tuning in from. As you do that, it will populate on our map here, and you'll be able to see where everyone is coming from. You should be seeing that link over in the chat box. If you're not sure where the chat box is located, on most devices, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a little talk bubble that says chat. And when you click it, that will open up the box. If you're joining from a mobile device, a lot of times you have to swipe from right to left 1 to 2 times to be able to get to that box. Once you're in the chat box, you'll see the little link for polev.com. You're able to click on that, and then you'll be able to click on our map and show us where you're tuning in from. And just as some of you are doing, if you're not able to access the map just yet this morning, you're welcome to share over in the chat. I see we already have folks from a number of different places, anywhere from Minnesota to Virginia to Oklahoma, Arizona, Massachusetts, North Dakota, New Mexico. So we've already covered about half the map. I'm going to let you go ahead and continue moving over to that map and populating. And while you're doing that, and I see we've already hit Alaska, our early birds. While we're doing that, I'm going to turn this over to Julian Guerrero Jr., the Director of the Office of Indian Education, to kick off our day.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I just got to say right off the bat, good morning to all relatives joining us. And to kick off in a good way, we want to be able to do a land acknowledgement for today's event and a celebration, reflection, and hopefully for many of us an inspiration for what the next 50 years could look like for the Office of Indian Education. So all those joining today in person, we join you from the main Department of Education, Lyndon B. Johnson building in Washington, D.C., as we continue to develop our own understanding of not only the country, but most importantly, to pay respects to elders, both past and present, upon this land that we are currently settled on today. We currently sit on the traditional lands of the Piscataway, Nacotchtank, and Anacostan peoples. It is our goal as a collective Office of Indian Ed, U.S. Department of Education, and collective federal employees to learn more about the peoples of these original lands as the original stewards of this land, to build awareness of their histories, present, future, and to share with others, including with you all today. So we're so enthused to be here and join everyone today. Thank you so much, Sarah, for the slide that we see in front of us. And I see that if you would like to also do your own land acknowledgement or learn more, you could, on the screen in front of you, go to the following hyperlink and or text your zip code to the following number to learn more about land acknowledgements that you can do in your area. Could I get the next slide? Oh, well, actually, we can go back and then I'll say a little bit more. And also just to open this up and also in native tongue, in my own Comanche language. My name is Julian Guerrero Jr. I have the pleasure of serving as the director of the Office of Indian Education. And let me just say that, well, here we are, the OIE and, contractors and support family to help us. On June 23rd, 1972, the Indian Education Act went into effect, officially enacting a plethora of endeavors, one of which was this mighty idea of creating the United States Office of Indian Education. As an office, we're charged with the mission to realize and support the academic and culturally related needs of Native students across these United States. A charge so heavy that I myself alone, as one person, cannot do it alone. The OIE employees ourselves are not enough to lift it alone. We do it amongst the community. We do it with you, and we aim to do it better as we move forward in this work ardently to serve the Native students that we're so charged with protecting. There's days where I must admit, I feel frustrated with the process. I am only human. I myself as a director sometimes am scared to let us all down as a community. And sometimes I'm afraid on how we're going to manage to accomplish all the wonderful goals and all the things that we need to do for Indian country. But you know what? I'd rather let those emotions not stall us from making an effort to help and support our Native children across the country. I refuse to have our Native students, scholars, and children experience a reality where they feel just as frustrated, scared, or a little afraid. We want to do whatever we can do within our powers amongst our grantee community to continue to serve our Native students and continue to be service-oriented. When I took this job, I felt good about myself because I knew that this work mattered. I speak to each of our team members joining today virtually. We know that this work matters. And guess what? Things that are hard matter. And now we must listen to this reality. My team of 10 now, soon to be 11, and more into the future. We're all we've got with almost 500,000 students that we know of to represent, to serve, to enable, to inspire. Our job is to keep them safe. And whether they want us to or not, we need to do these fruits of good work. And I don't want us just to pat ourselves on the back and give ourselves our own accolades. I want us to be fulfilled in knowing that we've given as much as we can give for the right reasons, that we've stood up for the right policies, that we stood up for equity when out of all times, especially now, it's much needed, that we stood up for serving the system and institutional changes that are meaningful, that are done in consultation, that are done in coordination with tribal nations. And an incredible opportunity for us to transform that belief that our best days are not behind us. The 50 days that it marks in this celebration are only the beginning. And the next 50 days that we have are going to be our greatest charge. So as millions of dollars pass through our hands every day, I never figured it in my life that we would be, if anything, in this opportunity to continue to do this work every day. And this isn't too far gone, the idea of what it takes to underscore the power and meaning of the work that we do. That I am compelled with my team in hand today to continue to persevere through this work that matters so desperately. And every day we are fulfilled in this work, I have no doubts. And I hope that in joining today's celebration and today's reflection, we can reflect on what we've been able to do thus far. And together, let's mark hope for our grantees, continue to build a community of collaboration more than competition. Convince them that it's never enough when our intent and goals are to raise up all communities and all Native children. I don't want us to look back in 2015 and think of ESSA was where the greatest change happened, not even 2022. I want us to look into the future and think about what the greatest change can be for all of our communities, how we can collectively unleash, unchain, and uplift every youth, every Native youth's mind in Indian country. We need it. And certainly the Office of Indian Ed is done waiting. We're very eager to continue to do good work and do it in a good way that helps our Native peoples reclaim, redefine, and remain in the spaces that they've always been in. And I'm so happy and enthused to continue and kick us off in a good way. So thank you so much. And let's go ahead and get the next slide. I don't see the slide on screen.
So, yes, our next speaker is Ruth Ryder.
Great.
Thank you so much, and I'm so excited to be here. And Julian and team, thank you all so much for pulling together this wonderful celebration. I came to work in the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education in April of 2019, and learning about OIE was one of the great opportunities that I saw when I came to work in OESE. Little did I know that shortly after I arrived, I was going to have an opportunity to be acting director of OIE after our Angeline left to go pursue her wonderful, successful career. I learned so much about the program in that time. I also had the opportunity to bring on Julian and Donna and Crystal, the great leadership team that OIE has. I was excited to have an opportunity to better understand the programs in OIE and understand some of the really important tenets of the work, including the importance of family and family engagement, the importance of community, the importance of culturally affirming practices in our work, and the importance of tribal sovereignty and how we could support that. It was a great learning experience for me, and it has really helped me look across all of our work. I do want to take a minute to recognize some of the great accomplishments in the last year or so, especially since Julian has arrived. I think he's provided such great leadership in coordination with Donna and Crystal. In the time that Julian has been part of the program and leading the program, he has really revitalized communication, set up a number of important strategies and activities for communicating with the field. He has greatly improved the technical assistance to our grantees on both the formula side and the discretionary grant side. He has and is still in the process of really revitalizing tribal consultation. That is such a critical part of the OIE program and much of the department's work as a whole. And I'm not sure everyone knows, but Julian coordinates tribal consultation along with the White House initiative across all of the department. It's a big job and such important work. He also has revitalized a lot of the work that is going on with NACCE. We recognize how critically important they are to our work and what an important role they have, and having a revitalized relationship with NACCE has been a great opportunity for us. Another area that has really been important over the last couple of years and that Julian and Donna and Crystal have been working on is working across the different programs within OESE, but also across the department. So particularly within OESE, connections with the Alaska Native Education Program, connections with Impact Aid, all of the other titles, Title I, Title II, and then of course the work with IES around the study that uses the NAEP data, so critical in informing our work. And finally, I just want to acknowledge the whole team for how sensitive they have been to the community, our grantees during the pandemic. They have been coming to me throughout, wanting to make sure that we are addressing the needs of the community, particularly during this challenging time of the pandemic, and really recognizing that we needed to adjust and look at our practices to make sure that we were accommodating the unique needs of the Native community during the pandemic. So congratulations to all on this 50th anniversary, and I will turn it back to the moderator.
Thank you so much. And with that, we will head over to Holly Mackey.
If I just speak from.
Yeah.
Okay, just double checking. So welcome all of you online, and I'm thrilled to be with all of the amazing people in this room today for the celebration of the 50th anniversary of Indian Ed. For so many of us, Indian education has far deeper roots than the 50 years that the federal government has acknowledged, and we've had 50 years to really dig in and think about what these foundations mean for our communities. And I'm proud to be part of a team that is very much interested in making sure that the legacy of those who came before us continues while building on and sustaining a future that allows us to really reimagine education within our communities. And so in March, I was fortunate enough to be appointed as the executive director for the White House Initiative on Advancing Educational Equity, Excellence, and Economic Opportunity for Native Americans and Strengthening Tribal Colleges and Universities. Big title. And a big responsibility, and a responsibility that I take quite seriously, right? It's a responsibility that we all have working in Indian Ed to fight for our communities in a space that is often rendering our communities invisible. And from my first day, Julian reached out to me and has wrapped me into the Ed fold. And this seems like a minor deal, but when you're working in the federal government, as many of you who are online have already done, you know that it can be very difficult to navigate the spaces when what we're fighting for is contrary to people's typical understanding of what should happen in education. And so also understanding that education is far more comprehensive than simply our grant programs and simply our public schools Title VI programs. I have the opportunity to work closely with Julian and his team to think about the pathway connections between preschool and lifelong learning, to think about the connections between economic opportunity and the ways that our tribal colleges can be really vehicles for advancing that within our communities for Native nation building. My executive order is under education primarily, and then also under interior and under labor. And so when the Domestic Policy Council started to think about what this executive order should look like, they were very mindful that we can't silo education into one program or one area, that we really have to think about the interconnectedness of our communities and how to then create strategies that allow us to build into our own communities all of the foundations and structures that we need to be successful as sovereign nations, as those who want to advance self-determination for our own communities. And what that looks like should be determined by the communities. And I would echo Ruth's sentiments about tribal consultation. One of the things that I can assure you, tribal consultation is the first part of every conversation that we have at ED. And that makes me incredibly happy to say to you. And on behalf of the White House Council for Native American Affairs, I would also like to share with you that across all of the 37 agencies, tribal consultation is at the forefront. And as co-chair of the Education Committee under the White House Council for Native American Affairs, I'm able to then take some of the ideas that other agencies are using and bring them back into ED and think about how our initiatives and our programs can connect in there. And also thinking broadly about education in general. In the Department of Education, we know that every program touches Native students, not just Indian education. And I'm excited to be part of a team who has the ability to communicate to all of the areas within ED the importance of Native education and how we can better serve students. And in my short time here, I've already seen the needle moving significantly through the work that Julian and his team have done in order to really bring attention to the fact that our communities deserve better and they deserve to be seen. So on behalf of the White House Initiative, I'm so thrilled to have you all with us today. I'm so thrilled to get to work with this amazing team. I'll be speaking to you at the end of the day, but I just want you to know that some of our team is also not with us. So I know I'd like to recognize Allison. She's sitting in the back. The camera can't see her, I don't think, or the chat bar is covering it. She has been a tremendous support for our work across the initiative in Indian Ed. And then in our legislative affairs, we also have Stephen Sakuda, who's working policy issues for us. So if you have ideas or you have things that you would like us to be thinking about, we welcome your feedback. I would also request that as you're online today, find all the social medias and post to the social medias, tag Office of Indian Ed, tag the White House Initiative on Twitter or Facebook. You know, one way to make sure that we are not rendered invisible is to make our voices heard. And so I would like to see today, and I will be doing the same, elevate the things that you hear. We're going to hear from some amazing former leaders. We're going to hear from some amazing students, right? I would really like to really create a presence today of all days. We will be seen. And so again, welcome. I'm so excited for the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Holly. We appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. So Sarah, I'm happy to intervene a little bit here, and I wanted to give some time to both of my group leaders here at the Office of Indian Ed to have a moment to really speak to whatever is on their mind in terms of, you know, how they envision the next 50 years and what are some things to celebrate, what are some things to reflect on, what are some things to look forward to for the next 50 years. And sometimes it's hard to think about that, but first I'll call on Donna to say a little bit, and then I'll call on Crystal to say a little bit as well. And feel free to share as much as you can. And I think if anything, but before I give it to you, Dr. Davis-Burns, I just want to say when I first joined OIE, mind you, for everyone on listening on the call, Donna was in Hawaii when I first came on board. And being in Hawaii, like we're all jealous for one, right? but then two, it didn't feel like she lived in Hawaii, because even though we had meetings early in the morning, she was still on to join us during some really early meetings. And I was just trying to learn my role and what I can do to support the work in OIE. And she was always meaningfully there to support conversations and really cares about the experience of grantees, really cares about how, it's not just what we do at the OIE, it's how we do it. And I think that really just that sort of approach has been very instrumental and really a breath of fresh air and relief for me, as because I was thinking moving into this role that that was going to be my battle. That was going to be my, my biggest push. And it really wasn't. It was having an environment, having a leader who would really embrace that. So Dr. Davis-Burns, please share with us what today means for you.
Well, thank you, Julian, and thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an honor to be here with the Office of Indian Education, and I'll have a little story in a minute about how I started with OIE, but it's truly in reflecting on what our charter and what we have to champion out there, and Holly said it greatly, is that we will be seen and we will be heard. And I think the work as far as discretionary grants go, which is the team I lead with Angela Hernandez and Bianca Williams and Shala Ortega, it's right now it's the four of us. And Donna Bustle. And Donna, she's my newest. I had a special introduction for you, right? And Donna, and what are you talking about? And so it's just us, and we manage many grant programs and competitions, and are sending money to the field to our kids and to be pre-service and pre-admin teachers. And what an honor it is to be able to be part of that. And as Julian said, it's not always fun. You want to hit your head on the wall a couple of times because you're up against a lot of opposition, bureaucracy, whatever it may be. And you feel it. But at the end of the day, and Julian has been so good about grounding me, because I wear my emotion on my sleeve, for those of you who know me well, and I feel it. And it's such a great place to be centered for myself, for our kids, Indian country, education, and being able to see the good out in across the country of the things that we do with OIE. It's amazing. And it's funny how I started here telling, Indians, we like to tell stories. So I was with a little baby at the time. It was about 2004. And I had a small child that had night terrors. So it was my turn in the middle of the night to calm him. So I had him in my arms on the left side. And I don't remember, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I had my laptop and I'm searching. I was working on my dissertation at the time, dreaming about what life after school would actually look like. So I start looking at different jobs, and I find this job with the Office of Indian Education. And I was just amazed, saying, this is my job. This is exactly what I want to do. And it was with the federal government. I'm thinking I could never, what? No way. But you know what? I'm a risk taker. I'll go ahead and apply. So I'm rocking the baby and I'm filling out what used to be a lot more simpler process in applying for a federal position. And I pushed the submit button and then I forgot about it. Woke up the next morning, went about my day, and about 3 months later, I get an email that said, unfortunately, we're sorry, you were not selected for the cert list. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even tell my husband. That's a good thing. I said, I forgot all about it. And I'm like, okay, about an hour later, I got another email that said, oops, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. You were selected to be on the cert list. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't told my husband. And so it started with an interview with the then Kathy Martin, who was the director at the time. And she interviewed me, and next thing you know, I'm here. And she took a chance on hiring a newbie. I was allowed to continue my schooling, and it's been a fabulous experience. I was with OIE for 5 years and then went to the Department of State for a while. But then my husband received orders to go overseas, and for the first time. So we were stationed in Belgium for 5 years. Then we were stationed in the opposite end overseas to Hawaii for 4 years, as Julian mentioned. And in Hawaii, I realized and witnessed Native Hawaiians and the issues of sovereignty, so many marginalization and parallel, all the things that I saw as a Native person myself. And I never knew it. I never knew the issues with language, trying to keep language. And it brought me into the classroom after being out for 18 years. And so I taught, I told you I was a risk taker. I taught kindergarten for 2 years, and it got me back to that roots of feeling like, okay, I need to do this more. And then I jumped on, just out of curiosity, jumped online, and what do you know? This job, it was getting ready to close like the next day. And so I said, this is the perfect job. And so this time I told my husband, and I was like, just to let you know, and applied, and I'm here. Angeline was the one who, and Ruth, they sat and interviewed me, and just last year moved all the way to the East Coast now. So we are in Maryland, and I have a wonderful team. I just love working with all of them. And I do, as you know, I'm emotional. I'm not gonna cry. But Julian, and working in office with Holly and Amy and Ruth and Crystal and our leadership, our team, our contractors, it's just been phenomenal. And it really, truly fills my heart, as cheesy it may sound, but it's true. It fills my heart to see the good that we do. And we do make a difference. It may be small, but it builds, and we will continue that path as far as and as long as I hope that we can. So I appreciate the time to be here, Julian, and I appreciate the opportunity to share.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Davis Burns. I appreciate that, and thank you for those words. And then I want to give an opportunity and also speak a little bit about our Dr. Crystal Moore and the leadership that she has provided for the OIE formula side of the house. And our formula team, when I first came on, I had some subtle experience working with formula grants, cooperating, building partnerships with them, seeing their experiences, hearing some of the things that they would like to see out of the OIE. So moving into this role, you know, my expectations were, well, I've worked with many grantees and I've heard them. Granted, I haven't ran a formula grant program, but what does it mean to still support them? And my thinking was, you know, I was going to have a full agenda of things that need to be done. I had a full list. And then when I met Dr. Crystal Moore and when we first spoke, pretty much everything on that list was already on her list. And pretty much everything that I really do care about deep down when it comes to accountability, when it comes to professionalism, when it comes to preciseness and data management and improving technology and leveraging technology, these were things that Dr. Crystal Moore already had in her own vision when it came to doing the work of the Formula Grant Program. And I think again was another relief for me. And I think I just had to kind of pinch myself because I was like, how could I be so lucky? How could I have another group leader who really truly values the idea of sustaining and improving services to our Indian Ed community and really modernizing a lot of our process, really cultivating a more efficient way to do business, and also actually helping us do better at responding to questions and needs and meeting invitations and really responding to our community of grantees, and that has just been an entire relief. So when I came on, that has been such an incredible piece. And Dr. Moore, you know, and I've written many strong, true words about how I feel about our work together. So Dr. Moore, would you care to share what today means for you?
Well, I'm going to get a bit teary-eyed along with Donna, so thank you. That is very kind, probably one of the best introductions I've ever had, Mr. Guerrero, Director Guerrero. And I hope you recorded that. Well, and I'll keep this succinct, just because we've got so many wonderful speakers on the lineup for today. But in general, I mean, Julian, we stand on the shoulder of giants, right? We have a huge legacy. Donna Bustle's also from Oklahoma, and huge legacy that goes back many generations for me as an Indian education. Lots of Indian educators in my family, going back to a history of a grandma that was in a tribal boarding school in southeastern Oklahoma. So with all of that history, it just, as Donna said, it was a huge honor for me to get the position in OIE. And I was brought in by Angeline Bully as well. And what a joy that it was to be introduced to OIE and OESE and Ed by her, as well as Ruth, Deputy Assistant Secretary Ryder. And I felt like I just had the best induction, and Julian being brought on board about a year later was wonderful to have somebody familiar. He and I knew each other in Oklahoma, and I liked his work there. And so was great that I also got to work under you here. So this position with Formula, I had worked with Formula in and around Formula. I was on the Oklahoma Council for Indian Ed. I know some of our members are online today, and then worked with AERA and the Indigenous Peoples of the Americas Special Interest Group. My dissertation was on Native women leaders and their use of technology. So it was almost as though Great Spirit, the good Lord, was preparing me to step into this role, and it was open. And a lot of great folks have been doing the work in the formula team long before I got here, and we were fortunate to have Miss Annabelle Toledo that she has stewarded this program for many years. So how many years, Annabelle? 19 now?
Close to 20.
Close to 20, yeah. And then Wanda Lee has been here for what, almost 8 years, Wanda?
6.5.
6.5, okay. It probably feels like 8 some days. Yeah. And then we have our new member, Greg Hinesley, that we brought over from a long legacy in Interior. And then we have transitioned a couple of folks in and out as well. So it's just a joy and an honor to have this role as the group leader and be able to use my gifts and talents that, you know, what's the old saying, we're built for such a time as this. And so it's been a joy, and I'm grateful that we continue to have support from Congress and the leaders across the federal government. We have $5 million more this year for our grantees. And we get every penny that we're allocated, that every penny goes out to grantees. And we work really hard to make sure that those dollars are well spent on behalf of our grantees, but on behalf of the almost 500,000 children that we serve. And they're really what we're about. Our funding is based on Indian student count. So our funding is based on each individual students. I'm honored to have added one extra student in the future to that this year. And OIE has been wonderful in supporting me with the new baby. She's almost 10 weeks old. And so it's been a joy for me to work somewhere that I feel comfortable bringing a baby into that environment, because it really is a family, as Holly said earlier. And so, as Julian said, we have done a lot of updates. It's been an epic adventure. We have really continued to modernize the program. The modernization started, I think, about 16 years ago with going to our easy system. We have, with the help of Ruth Ryder, 2 years ago, we updated to OMB Max, which is a even more innovative system. We continue with Julian's support to integrate more tech updates, Power BI, and other systems to improve our service. It really is about serving our grantees. So we continue 50 years in the future. What will it look like? I don't know exactly, because, you know, Moore's Law, there's a thing called Moore's Law. It's not me, but that tech updates so quickly that by the time you get it in your hands, it's already outdated with the innovation. So what will it look like? I don't know in terms of tech, but I do hope that the tech and the systems and the SOPs, the standard operating procedures, and all the processes will almost be invisible. And so that 100% of what the team does, 100% of what our office does is pretty much invisible, and from the back end, and that we're 100% available and focused on the grantee, and all of our time can be spent in relationship and support of our grantees on the ground, our Indian parent committees, which are critical to the work that we do, that we can be spending 100% of our day meeting with grantees, providing technical assistance, providing relationship support between the IPCs, the parents, and the school administration, because that's really where the rubber meets the road, is with those relationships. So the tech, which is, I'm a techie, but the tech becomes invisible, and it's 100% about what we serve. And across the nation, and the kids that are coming up, and continue to carry this work forward. So that's my wish for the 50 years, and I think we're headed that direction. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moore. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also give a chance for any of our wonderful staff at the OIE to also say, what this day means to them, what they imagine, and please share how you entered the OIE as well. So would any of the staff care to chime in a little bit? Say hello? This wasn't in the plan, but if anything, I want to give them an opportunity to also chime in if they so wish.
Okay.
Yeah, Bianca, please.
Natsium, Nostalgiacium, C Nuts Nuts, Bianca Williams of Lummi Nation. I am so honored to be here and a part of a great team. I love what I do. I love that I'm still connected to my community and that we're really making a positive impact. In 50 years, I can see, natives leading so much more. I think like now is a great time to be native. It's like we're finally getting a forefront, we're finally making a difference. And I'm just happy to be a part of such of a positive mission and team. And yeah, I love what I do. I mean, it's a lot of work, but I wouldn't change it. I know that, it takes a lot to get a lot, and we are getting a lot. I think we're doing a lot of great things, hearing from the grantees and our community. I'm happy where I'm at. I think like that's a big thing to say in any federal position, and especially being a native in a federal position, to say I'm supportive of our mission and what we do. So I'm so happy to be here, and 50 more years of great service.
Good morning. I said good morning to you in my native language. I said my native name and the fire clan that I come from. And in my 20 years of being at the Office of Indian Education, I have seen great improvements from when I first came in. It was a paper application. It was a monster to work with a paper application and having to review paper applications at that time. And when we finally moved to our EASY system, which is the electronic application system for Indian education, in 2007, that was a big movement towards technology. And from there to now being in OMB Max, the travel from paper application to being in the modern technology stage has been a big improvement for the staff in reviewing our applications, the technology that's come with it. And we're getting more and more into streamlining all the work that we do in the Office of Indian Education. And I have had some wonderful opportunities in going out to meet grantees when I'm doing my on-site monitoring. My first experience was going to Oklahoma with Bernard Garcia and Jean Hunt, who we considered our elder at that time when I first came in, because she was the longest person being in OIE before she retired. And everything that I've done, I've learned through her for her teachings, her commitment, her passion, her dedication, and learning all about Indian education. And I've always wanted to be in education. I just fell into it. It wasn't part of where I guess I had thought I was going to be. But once I fell into Indian education, everything just came into place, and learning more about education, learning more about our students and what we can do for them, because we work for them. Without them, we wouldn't be here. And just having that passion. And what I really find most passionate about this is getting the parents to be empowered to take the responsibility and initiative to speak for their children in the school district, because our funding goes directly to the school districts. And that's what makes this program really unique, because we have that relationship with the school districts, that we can work with the superintendents directly, working with our project directors directly. And also hearing from our students when we were going out for doing on-site monitoring, and also as part of our monitoring, also having an opportunity to meet with them face to face and going into the classrooms and asking them what's working and how can we best serve them with our funding and with our program, and taking that and bringing that here to us and improving our application process along the way and making it reflect more about their accomplishments. So my 20 years of being in the Office of Indian Education, I've seen a lot of my co-workers come and go. moving on to other jobs, retiring. And here I am. I'm holding the torch, but I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I'm working with a great group of people in the Office of Indian Education. As we've always said, we're a small and mighty team, which is true. We're all dedicated, we're all committed and passionate. And we all have that same vision to serve our American Indian Alaska Native students. And that's who I am.
Good morning. I just want to say, as somebody who is non-native sitting here at the table, that one of the reasons that I came to OIE was because I knew very little. Even though I'd grown up in a region where I was surrounded by many tribal nations, I did not have any experience or any understanding. And so joining the team a few years back, and thank you to Joyce. I see you on the line, Joyce, for bringing me on board back when you did. I can't tell you the trajectory of learning curve and opportunities that have allowed me to better understand the issues and frankly, a lot of the parallel issues that impact all students of color. You know, one thing that does undergird my professional experience is equity. And equity is not unique to anybody. It's the right of all of our students. And it's been a real honor to work with my teammates who are truly teammates. I really feel lucky to be in this office and to be working with people who I feel like I can truly collaborate with. But in addition, I think what's been most impressionable to me is having been able to work with a number of grantees long enough to see their expertise, their experience, their knowledge, their understanding, and their successes really shine through, because really that's all I am, as a steward of these funds, getting them out to the right people, the right projects, and to all the students who are so deserving of this work, and seeing the fruits of our labor come through. That's, you know, looking at an annual performance report and seeing graduates of teacher training and administrator training programs, seeing kids in K-12 successfully achieve through the programs that we support. That to me is really the foundation for the legacy that I see, hopefully to continue over the next 50 years.
Well, I can say a few words. My name's Greg and I'm the newbie, just hired about 6 months ago. And I just want to say everybody's been very welcoming. It's actually the first time I'm in the building today ever and meeting my boss face to face for the first time. Supervisor. So it's been really nice. And my roots are in education and history. So it's nice to come back to that and to see educators surrounding me in various levels of experience and skills. And I think it's a really solid team and it's nice to see everybody together. And I'm just excited. I'm still learning the ropes, but I'm doing okay, I think. And I just want to contribute, you know, my energy and my anything that I can help out. And you've all been very welcoming. So thanks a lot.
Wanda Lee, I just need to say that I started in Title IV 47 years ago. I was a part-time clerk, typist, or secretary. I had a Lumbee boss, one of the best bosses I've ever had. And she said, Wanda, I'm your mentor. I'm going to teach you everything. You're going to do everything. You're going to learn how to be a project director. That's exactly what she did. And she was really the first person who taught me how to be professional and to do so many different things and the skills that I had. I was in two title, I was in two Part A projects. And I was also in a Part C where it was an adult education program, which was just as enlightening. So, you know, for me to be able to come back to this after all these years, I mean, it has been, you know, just soulful, just totally really what I wanted to do. Because some of the best experiences I had were in Indian education when I was very young, in my 20s. And I've also done other things over the years, you know, touching education. I did a one-day conference for the Indian Commission in the state of Maryland. But, you know, this program was always, I guess, my heart because I started here. you know, and it just, I learned so much about it. Now, my mother's people are all educators. We're all first generation college graduates and educators. And I have 2 educators on my father's side, and he's an Appalachian.
Thank you, Wanda.
It's a privilege.
Hello, Donna J. Nashaklawa Bustle from Oklahoma. I taught for 11 years, was an NYCP director. And this job is actually a dream come true. It's what I've always wanted to do. I always looked at this job on the website and thought about applying, but never did, because I never thought I was able to perform at this level. But a few years ago, I guess almost 2 years ago now, I did, and I'm really blessed to have this position and be able to serve our Native people. My grandfather and grandmother raised me. He's full-blooded Apache. He always instilled in me the courage to go out and do things. And my grandmother was full-blood Comanche, and she was worked as a teacher's aide for the Title 5 back then? Title 4 back then? Title 4 for Indian education at a small school that I went to. And she was my disciplinarian and taught me how to do the right things. I didn't know what to do it, but it did lead me into this position as well. And they have both passed on. And my grandmother, who's still with me today, who's Caddo, she's my inspiration. She has her doctorate's degree, and I'm a little ways away from finishing mine up in a couple years, but they have all been my inspiration into going into education and seeing more Native people in education. So I'm very blessed to have this position and thankful to be here.
Well, Donna Buswell, I'm the blessed one out of all of us. Yeah, we are the blessed ones to be able to serve in these roles, very important roles. And it's easy to forget that when you're kind of really in the day-to-day operations. And that's what this celebration is about, to kind of get us out of that day-to-day operation and really think about the celebration. And I would be also remiss not to mention how grateful we are to be accompanied by our contract support as well. So we have members from our Synergy Enterprises team with us today. We really appreciate their attendance and their support in person, and to travel to be with us, and that matters a whole lot, and we do appreciate that. I'd also like to give a shout out to AEM and the work that they do to support our online application. Oh, I see some hand clapping. Yeah, thank you so much for this. And then also Ann Lahr for our professional development program and the work that they do. Really very, very enthused that they can support us in those ways. And our newest contractor, LPE Associates, who helps us with a lot of our logistical support for the National Advisory Council on Indian Ed, and so on and so forth. So, you know, each of those 4 contractors support very different components in the work that we do. And those are things that I had no clue even existed. You know, when I knew I wanted to work at the OIE, I knew this was a great opportunity. Little did I know all the other pieces of the puzzle that are a lot of the hard work that occurs behind the scenes. And really, it's not just our federal employees, our federal family, it's also our contractor family as well, who are part of this. So shout out to so many of the other folks online right now. I see on the screen, I see you, Kathleen, and your team, and all the work that you guys do with just moderating, facilitating, taking Julian Guerrero's midnight emails and like working through all the things that I worry about and really contemplate and
I know you look right.
so if anything, we just really appreciate that and the support all together. So in the last 5 minutes, I'll just say really briefly that, again, today is about celebrating, reflecting, and inspiring ourselves to really think about what the next 50 years could look like, and this kind of imagining what the call to action is for us. We've brought in so many thoughts and so many reflections. And, I try to think about all the kind of metamorphosis of the Indian Ed program from Title IV to Title IX to Title VII and now to Title VI. And when I think about all those changes, all the hands that OIE has gone through, the one thing that really comes to mind at the end of the day is that it is not about any single one of us on this team. It is about the OIE. The OIE's legacy is important to me and to all of us. I want to be able to, when I leave at some point in time from OIE, I want to have excitement about what the OIE will continue to do and supporting the OIE success. It is a person, it's our relative. The OIE can be in a position of continuing to promote, protect, support, and help our Native relatives reclaim so much of what has been displaced. But it is not lost. It is in each and every single one of our communities. And that's something that just roots me in so much passion and so much determination to help partner with tribal nations, partner with states, partner with school districts, partner with people who don't want to partner and move things forward. I think we have so much incredible opportunity in front of us. So with that, Sarah, I think we are on time to move to our next segment. Is that right?
You are correct. We are exactly on time. So it gives us just enough time to share a few ways that people can make sure that they are staying in the know about the Office of Indian Education. So I'm going to pop up that information as we then transition into our next section.
I'm not sure I understand.
And of course, Siri would like to help us with the presentation. If she's anything like that with y'all, I'm sure you understand she only wants to help at times when you don't really need the assistance. All right, so a few ways that you can stay in the know in regards to what is happening at the Office of Indian Education is to subscribe to our quarterly newsletter. You can send your name and email address to oie@seiservices.com to be able to receive that quarterly newsletter. You can join the OIE listserv. This is the official listserv for the Office of Indian Ed. You can send your name, organization, and email address with the subject line OIE listserv to oie@ed.gov. You can always check out our website, and we'll pop that link in the chat as well, so you don't have to try to scribble that down. And then you can also follow us on Twitter. So our handle on Twitter is OIE Indian Ed. And we're always sharing things there every single day. So it's a great way to stay in the know.